Here's the thing. If you want to be rich, the easiest way to get there is to live poor. And by that, I simply mean living on a lot less than you make. So if you make $800 a week, could you live on $4? I can almost hear people saying, "Oh hell no, there's no way I could. No way I could. No way I could." A lot of people probably could. They're just not willing to give up what it takes to get there. I don't have new vehicles or any of that. I do have in the house, but I searched all around all throughout the country and I settled on where I settled on because of the price of housing. But I really got to be careful with what you do. But $400 a week, I can live on that. If I needed to, if I absolutely need to, I could. If you look at most of my stuff, it's used. Within very few exceptions, I never buy anything new. I'm always looking for a deal. I'm always looking for a hustle. I don't buy anything to impress anybody, and I don't buy stuff that's flashy. I buy stuff that I want, and I budget for those things that I want. But I'll give you a great example. I haven't locked my vehicles in probably 9 years. Just because. A lot of my vehicles have the keys sitting in the passenger seat when I'm somewhere else, unless I feel I'm going to be, something. But for the most part of the time, I'm not concerned about it. Nobody's going to go to jail for 3 to 5 years for something that I'm driving. Same regard. I'm walking down the street. I got a t-shirt on and some blue jeans, and I look like this. I'm probably not going to get robbed versus the person with a whole bunch of bags from the store down the road and flashy this and flashy that, probably a whole bunch of debt, and they look rich, so they're probably going to get robbed. And it's what it is, but they're not going to rob my butt. Heck, I might rob them. Give me your money. Give me your money. You think you're robbing me? And guess what? No. But but you know how it is. So people kind of look at that and they'll see you with holes in your jeans and all this, and maybe some boots that are got some wear to them and all that. Like I'll wear a pair of boots. Like I bought Red Wing boots and I bought high dollar boots and all that. I got wide feet. Okay, I'll leave it at that. But I got wide feet. My pair of boots I buy from Walmart, they're $40 boots. I can wear them right out the store. It's not about the money. It's not about how much it costs. It's about, does it work for you? You don't need a brand name. Some people feel they need that. I don't need a brand name. I'm wearing a generic shirt, stuff like that. If I can get it for free or next to free, I'll wear it. It doesn't matter to me. I look at clothing as it's something that's meant to be worn. When you get, it goes nice shirt, work shirt, shop shirt, something I'm going to wear in the shop or if I'm painting something, and then it gets turned into a rag. And somewhere along that line, I might donate to Goodwill if it's something that I usually don't wear. But usually it ends up going in that order. Nice shirt, I'll wear something nice for a little while, but I'm tough on everything. So something that's nice is probably going to become a work shirt real fast. And something like that. And I really don't get rid of that stuff until it's absolutely needed. And somebody might catch me out in the open wearing one of my work shirts that has holes in it at like a movie theater or whatever. I have a movie theater that's close to me, and it's cheaper for me to actually go to that movie theater. I can get the tickets it's like $7. Get you like a pretzel and a thing, and it's less than $20 versus getting something on Amazon and playing around with like popcorn and all that from the store. You're probably going to be right around $20, and I get to say I went out to the movies for less than $20. But it's stuff like that where if you keep things cheap, and all that, you're gonna enjoy it. Now, there's a couple things where it doesn't make sense. Okay, there's a couple things where it doesn't make sense. Now, here you go. There's a TV. I think I spent like $90 on that. Because it didn't make sense to buy that used. And all that stuff. Now, could I get this? I've had those at an auction for like $20. Every now and then I'll see them for like $20. And I'll buy them. I think I got one in the garage right now. Just as a backup and all that. But like, if you're able to do that, some things make sense. Something like cars. I'll give you cars because I love working on cars. I have never bought a new car. I've never needed to. It's always seemed like a huge headache and a huge hassle. Now, I bought cars for $3,000 to $5,000. For $3,000 to $5,000, you can usually get a vehicle that's pretty reliable, still has 50 to 60,000 miles on it. You got to do your research, but $5,000 instead of $50,000, it might have a couple dents. It might look like crap. Remember, we're not looking to be rich. We're not looking to act rich. We're looking to be rich. Okay? And how you do that is instead of buying the $50,000 car, you buy the $5,000 car. Because the $5,000 car is going to last you for 50,000 miles. Okay? And versus the $50,000 car that it's going to last you for 150. Okay? Do the math. And insurance is going to be less on that car. Maintenance is probably going to be less on that car. A lot of things are going to be less on that car versus that brand new spanking whatever vehicle. And all those little things add up. All of them do. I'm not going to get into new versus old cars, but that was just a really simple example of something you can do to look poor. You're driving this vehicle that's 15 years old, and it's rusty. It's still safe, but it's rusty. Maybe it has some dents and dings on it. Whatever. Whatever. Does it function? Functions great. Go down the road? Goes down the road great. Maintenance? Crazy cheap. Gotta love it. Is it going to, am I going to get any additional charges from this later on? What's the maintenance going to be like? Does it have $2,000 headlights? Stuff like that. Yeah. So that's just a short example, but that applies to anything. Okay? Anything. There are times where you do got to spend money. Okay? But a majority of the stuff, it's just not needed. there's usually something you can buy that works for what you need at a lesser price. I'm a big fan of recycling and upcycling and using stuff until it doesn't make any more sense. Okay? Using stuff until it's gone. Furniture is a great example. I do not understand why people buy new furniture. Most of the stuff, if you look around, you can buy the furniture for next to nothing. Pretty much take it. Take it. You want a big old bed. You want a big bed that's all oak and such. $25 at an auction. You want to buy that new? $2,500, $5,000. Yeah. Now you're gonna want to clean it up and throw a new mattress and all that on that, of course. But there you go. It always amazes me how somebody who's broke all the time will go out and spend $5,000, $7,000 on a special bed when they don't have the money to do it. But whatever. If it's medical, talk with whoever and maybe figure out a way to do that. But out your own pocket? No, that's never made sense to me. Like some vehicles just don't make sense either to me. Driving around in a Porsche, what? No, I don't get it. I mean, it's fun. I'll ride long passenger seat, but I guarantee you, if I'm in that car and maybe I take it for a test drive, I'm worried about breaking something. I know this thing has like a $8,000 clutch, something like that. I'm gonna baby it. Versus if I get something that's beat to crap, and I bought it to beat on, I bought it for a toy, and it's cheap and it only has like a $200 clutch. I'm dropping that thing. I'm roaching the tires. I'm tearing it up because it's not a huge deal. Okay, I'm having fun on the cheap versus having that thing where I know it's going to be something crazy if something breaks. Or just the maintenance on the stuff is crazy high. It's just something I can't justify. It's nice. It's something I might rent, but I would never own something like that. People put too much focus on what other people think. Some people just look down on people. You can look down on me. I don't care. You can go right ahead. I do not care. If you see me getting out of my older truck that's got some rust on it, and I go inside and maybe I got some holes in my jeans. Maybe I got a hole in my t-shirt because I was welding that afternoon and I got a little spatter on it. And I don't know why I wouldn't change it, but maybe I just didn't notice the spatter. And like, yeah, so I got holes and yeah, I don't have the newest gizmo and I don't have that. Yeah, I'm going to look a little trashy. I don't care. It's not about the other person. It's about what works for you. Okay? When you're shopping at the store, it's about what you need, not about other things. Like I'll buy store brand over anything most days of the week because a majority of the time it's better. Not always. I'm going to say that right now. There's some stores that the store brand's just trash. But the majority of the time it's good. And then you like, I eat chicken and fish and vegetables. Actually, that's really about it. But I'm sure I'm missing a couple things. But like, sometimes I'll eat rice. All those things, believe it or not, are cheap. Um, they are. Um, and like, you can basically live on that, and I have. And like, you throw some variety in there, but I don't think I've gone out to eat in probably 4 or 5 weeks. Um, you know, I just it doesn't make sense to me. Some people, every single um every single Saturday they're at the thing, no matter what. Now, if you're meeting someone there, that's a social thing. That might be the exception, but for the most part, I, I'm not going through a drive-through to get some food and spend $20 when I can buy a 5 pound bag of chicken for like 3 pound. Let's go 3 pounds. I can buy a 3 pound bag of chicken for $15 and yeah, feed myself for probably 2 or 3 days off that. And it's healthier, it's better. I don't have to worry about anything. Um, it's just, I don't know. But that's something where you'll see people, they go out and they'll go out every single Friday. And the reason they go out on Friday because they're usually broke on Thursday. You want to go out on a Tuesday. There's almost nobody there, or it's a lot less people. You go out on a Friday or Saturday, it's going to be packed. I don't. It just is what it is. So, but if you live poor, there's nothing wrong with bringing a lunch to work. That's another thing. I've never understood why that's such a bad thing, bringing a lunch to work. I eat my meal before work. I work nights, so I eat my meal before work. And then I work my shift and burn all that off, and then I go to sleep and I wake up and I eat it like in the afternoon. And like that way I don't have to bring the thing to work, but a couple times I had to, or a couple times I was trying to flip my schedule around, my sleep schedule, but there's nothing wrong with it. If you want to do it, you're probably going to do it. I mean, some tuna fish, some mayonnaise with maybe some avocado mixed in, and some bread. Let's call that $2 or $3. You could probably make 2 sandwiches out of it. Let's call it $5. There you go. $5 versus probably 10 or 15 at the fast food place. All this adds up. Phil only he eats the sandwiches every day. Yeah, okay, whatever. Don't care. Buying stuff out of the vending machine, that'll get you every time. You can spend $5 in a vending machine without thinking about it. There's just so many things where if you're not acting cheap, you can easily spend money on things where you didn't have to. And then you're in a position where you're screwed because you put yourself in that position. Nobody, with few exceptions, I got to throw that in there. With few exceptions, you've made the choices to put yourself into that position that you're in. And you also need to make the choices to put yourself out of that position. And if you're in debt, maybe you got to figure out a way to put more money aside. The easiest way to make more money is to spend less. I know it doesn't make sense. Okay? If you don't spend as much, that's the same as making more. So if you act poor, you can act poor all you want, you know? But if you act poor, you're probably going to eventually, it's going to take you a while. A lot of these people, they got a mindset they need to impress other people. I don't care. Maybe you don't care. Maybe your friends will care. You know? Now, there's times where you don't be cheap. You know? One of the reasons I don't go out that much is I don't like spending money on that. But I do tip. I have always tipped good. You know? I'll give a 20 or 30% tip because that if I'm there, I don't care what I might buy like an appetizer for myself and drink water, but that server's getting a tip. Now, I don't want them to like expect it and all that, and I don't want that to just show up on the bill and be an increased charge. Trust me, I know how much the bill is. Everybody, once again, you need to kind of watch things because it seems everybody nowadays feels they're obligated to pay an extra little bit more. You know, this whole thing with Vegas, where I seen a video where somebody won like $800, and the waitress was, or not a waitress, one of the employees of the casino pretty much tracked him down across the parking lot and was mad at him because he didn't give him a tip. Trust me, the casino is getting all the money they want from that person. I don't gamble. I just don't. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't gamble, any of that stuff, because those are luxuries. Those are big luxuries. And like, I've never been able to justify something like that. And if everybody needs a vice, that's understandable. I'd rather be working on a car where I can enjoy that versus drinking something. But everybody has a vice. Whatever, if that's your vice, that's your vice. But if you were to buy something and then they were to like assume you wanted to tip 15% and threw an extra 15% under that thing, that just seems wrong in my book. Okay, now if I feel like tipping, I'm going to tip. But the one way I save that money, let's say I spend $20 and I give them a $5 tip, okay? The one way I spend money is by not going out. You know, I don't have to give a tip if I buy it at the grocery store. You know? And like that, and I also know what's in the food. Not paranoid or anything. It's just I know what's in that food. I know, and I got a rough idea of the calories in that food because I made that food. Versus going to a restaurant and it might taste great, but the reason it tastes great is they've thrown a handful of salt into the thing, you know? Yeah, it tastes great. That chocolate lava cake or whatever might taste great, but it's horrible for you. And I ain't gonna go on a health kick here. But what I'm trying to get at is you want to look like you're poor. Okay? If you can look like you're poor, and you don't even have to do that to be thrifty. That's the difference between wearing a $50 shirt or something you bought used at a garage sale for $5. That $5 shirt might be all vintage and actually pretty dang cool, you know? And there you go. Even, I'll take it a step further. that $5 shirt might be a fake of an $800 shirt. So you're walking around looking like you got an $800 shirt on. Now, once again, back to the whole rob thing. If you get your butt robbed, oh well, you've only lost $5 in that case. That's the reason why a lot of people wear costume jewelry. It's not that they can't afford the real thing. It's that if something happens, they don't have a $3,000 necklace. They got a $30 necklace. Okay? Give it up. Let them figure it out later. All that stuff. But that rhinestone or whatever the heck it's called is still going to look as good on you as them. I don't wear. Let's see if I can do this. I don't wear any watches or anything. I got a phone with a clock on it. I just, it's one of those things where if it makes sense for you, good. Am I going to buy that thing brand new? No. Even like a watch or a computer, like I'm going to buy that refurbished. Most of my computers, I'm going to show it to you. Most of my computers are gaming computers that I bought off Facebook for $400 to $600. Okay? I got one right now, it's water cooled. Water cooled, big graphics card. I think it's got like 2 or 3 TIG. Yeah, it works. I pretty much bought the graphics card and the rest of it came with it. I'll probably get 3 to 4 years out of it, and then it'll be thrown into the pile with the rest of them because it's outdated. And guess what? I'll go out and spend another $400 to $600 on another gaming computer. I'm not going to whatever. I'm not going to throw names out. I'm not going out to wherever and dropping $3,000, $4,000 on a gaming computer that I'm going to have to probably upgrade in 6 months. Stuff like that where I just not interested in it. Now, some people, if that's the life you want to live, you can live it. But you really should be looking at a percentage. You look at your paycheck as a percentage. Okay? If you're not able to put a percentage away and you're not able to think long term about this stuff, if you're the person that's going out every Friday and you're going out on Friday to get some food because getting food on Friday, going out to eat, if you're going out to eat on Friday because that's when you get paid and you're spending like $150, if you're spending like $200 over the weekend and you're broke on Monday and then you're broke again till Friday and then you do it again and again and again, okay? That's not getting ahead. That's looking like you're rich, okay? Who are you trying to impress? Because no matter who you're trying to impress, eventually they're going to see through that. Okay? It's nice to do these things from time to time, but eventually it's going to catch up to you. Whereas if you look poor, maybe instead of going out on a expensive thing for a date, there you go, I'll throw out a date. Maybe instead of going out on an expensive date where you go to the expensive dinner and then you go to the club and then you go to an after party or a friend's house afterward and you bring some drinks along and all that, well, you just drop like $300 or $400 versus you make a meal. Maybe you make a home cooked meal at your house. You have that. Maybe you go to a park in the afternoon and then you have that home cooked meal at the nighttime, and then you watch a movie together. Let's call it $50. $50 versus 300, 400, and and then which one are they going to actually expect? Which one are they going to see through that? Which one are they going to actually expect? What are we doing next week? Are we going to spend another $500 on this? No, they kind of expect that kind of date. Now, that's if they're not for you, or if they don't like that, good. Now, are there times when you need to spend? Yeah, there's times where it makes sense. But stuff like that, just trying to impress somebody in the wrong way out the gate, they're going to think of that, If you get down where you look poor, it's going to pay for itself. It's going to amplify other things, like I'm saying. You don't have to have the best of everything and the newest gizmo and all that stuff. You don't need it. Trust me. You don't need it. I guarantee you. Like, I'm a big person of vintage. You give me anything vintage that works, I'm probably going to buy that over something new. I'm keeping it out of a landfill. I'm giving it more life. Maybe I have to fix it. Maybe it's something that I need to fix. Maybe I learned a skill by fixing that thing that I otherwise wouldn't have learned. Stuff like that. Anyway, way too long. Once again, I went way over. But it's one of those things where if you want to actually look rich, I'll take it back. If you want to actually be rich, look poor. There's no need to look rich and be poor. Because eventually, you can only play that game for so long. It's better to... And another part of that... Oh, dang it, I'll throw another part. Another part of that is keep your accounts low. Hold on. Let me get to this. If you only need, let's say, $2,000 in the bank to live on, okay? To live on, only keep that in the bank. Anything over that, find something to put it in where you can't touch it easily. And then you can leave that in there to do its thing, like a high yield or something else. Leave it in there to do its own thing. And I don't want to say forget about it, but kind of forget about it. Okay? Let it do its own thing. Meanwhile, you keep that $2,000 on hand so you can pay all your bills and have something constant so you can keep paying your bills and all that off that $2,000. And you don't need anything more kind of deal. If you want to buy something, you can actually set up a separate account and still have only $2,000 in that bank to buy something with cash so you don't have to take out a loan. And I won't get into that either, paying stuff with cash, because that just ticks off so many people, because that's how they make their money, a lot of them. But it's one of those things where if you only have $2,000 in the bank and you need to jump through a hoop to get above that or take out something, if there's a wall there, maybe it's 500. Maybe it's you only need 500 a week in that account to survive, and you just keep adding 500 to that every single week, and that lets you survive. If you only have that in there, and you don't have any credit cards where you can cheat, if you only have that $500 in there, that's going to become a wall that doesn't let you spend more than that. And you're going to come into a thing where you can't buy this thing because I only have like $100 in the account. I can't do this now. I'm forcing myself to be cheap. I'm forcing myself to restrict this. But that's something that you can kind of practice like right now, where you limit that account and put stuff into a different account, a long-term account. Okay? Now, this is something that is going to take time to build. You need to build that up. But once you've built that up, you can start doing this. But it is something that you can start practicing now. So if you only have $100 in the account, you're not going out to eat because that $100 might take 50 of the 100 and you still need gas. Whereas if you don't go out to eat, you can easily afford that gas and you're good. Kind of deal. That I'm making this up as I go, folks. But stuff like that. Just having that wall in place that kind of stops you from spending over what you would normally spend on is going to help. Just putting that wall in place. Now, you need to be able to go around that wall to get to your liquid assets in case of an emergency and in case of all that. Don't be putting it on to something that's locked in or something you're going to be hitting penalties, but put that wall into place, and that way you're not doing that. That way you're forcing yourself to be cheap. You're not even acting cheap at that point. You're forcing yourself to be cheap. Now, where that number is going to depend on so many things I ain't going to go into, but there you go. You might be able to do that, and then what that does is that builds you a wall here to go up to that wall and no more until you have your next dealie. And then you have another wall past that where you have your liquid. Okay? You have your available cash to spend on your normal needs. And you're going to write out your budget. You're going to have to figure out exactly what these numbers are. But you got that first wall. After that wall, you get to liquid. Something like a high yield where it's still liquid, where if you absolutely need it, you can get to that without any fees. After that, you get into something where it's like investing, where you have maybe something that is long-term. It's a long-term investment. And the goal is to keep the first wall fixed, the second wall up to an amount as an emergency fund, and then after that, you're constantly investing into the next one. Okay? And then that builds in the background where you don't even have to think about the first one. You're only focusing on the smallest. You're only focusing on that one that's week to week or day to day. You're not week to week. Let's go with that. Or even month to month. Week to week or month to month. Let's go with that one. But that's your small one. That's your week to week and month to month. That is not your emergency fund. That is not your investment fund. Those are things you're going to want to forget about. You're investing in them, but it's long term. Okay? It's stuff that you're putting money into these things, but you're not looking at them as much as that lesser amount. And you know why you're doing this. But that's going to force you to be cheaper because you you're not looking at $12,000 in the account. You're looking at $1,200 kind of deal. If you're looking at $12,000, it might be easy to spend $3,000 in a weekend. Because you can. But if you only have $12,000 in the weekend, if you only have $12,000 in the account, you're not spending $3,000 because you don't have it. because it's a wall. And that's how you look cheap. Okay? That's how you look cheap, because I can't do this, because I'll break through one of my walls, and I don't want to break through one of my walls. Now, it's not a perfect system. It does have flaws. You know, maybe you do want to invest towards buying something that is over an amount. You know, maybe you have that. But this is just an example of having those walls in place where you can look cheap, because you might not be able to buy that $3,000. Now, there might be once in a lifetime opportunities where you want to break through that to save yourself money. But for the most part, if you're looking at $1,200 to $12,000, it's going to be a lot easier to spend some of that $12,000 versus all that $1,200. Okay? Anyway, longer than I wanted it to be. Focus on looking cheap. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing at all. A lot of people are upside down. They just are. And because they're upside down, they're screwed. Because they want to look like they're rich, but they're actually poor as hell. They're so far up and down and left and right. It's not. It's a lesson. It's a lesson they're learning. But if you start out with the mindset that you have these walls in place, and even if you are behind, okay, maybe you build the first wall. Maybe you build the emergency fund, and then maybe whatever's left over goes to that debt pile and working that down. Instead of investing, you're working that debt down. Okay? You still need that first wall. You still need that emergency fund. But now you're working that debt down, and you're not seeing that money. You're putting, let's go with $200 a week towards paying that debt down. It's going to take long. It's going to be hard. Lessons are hard to learn sometimes. But you're going to pay it down because you're not seeing it. Now, if you do have that problem with debt, or that, let's go with a credit card. A credit card, let's say you have $2,000 on a credit card in debt, okay? And you're putting $200 a week towards that credit card, automatic deposit, you don't see it, or automatic withdrawal, you don't see it, right into that credit card account. And the important thing there is you need to kill that card. You need to kill that card, because that's going to make, if you have that card, you're going to be able to go around all the walls to get to that card. But if you eliminate that card, if you cut the card up, your walls are fixed. There's no way to cut that. There's no way to get to that card now. Now, I still want you still want an emergency fund, because stuff's going to happen. Even if maybe you make $800 a week. That's about right. Maybe you make $800 a week. $600 goes into your thing. $100 goes into an emergency fund, and $100 goes towards the card. Can you survive on $600? I bet you can. I can bet you can find a way. And then that's going to slowly work the stuff down to where you're not having an issue, and slowly pay stuff down, and all that. But it's you're going to have to live poor when you're not spending on that credit card, not living on the credit card, not living in debt. Okay? But it starts with acting poor and pretty much being poor, because a lot of people are. They're so upside down. They are so into the red. It's not even funny. And sometimes things need to be adjusted. If you need to like live with somebody, live with 2 or 3 people at a time to pay the rent and to knock your bills down, that's what you got to do. You know, there's so many things you might have to do to just lessen things and live poor. Maybe you can't afford the subscription, whatever. Maybe you can't afford the $15 or $20 a month for the subscription TV thing. Okay, you don't have it. You can watch YouTube for free. You can watch 3 or 4 different things for like free. You don't have to go with the shows and all that. But that's just a step. That's just part of maintaining that wall. The strongest wall you want is that smallest wall, that smallest amount, that weekly/monthly amount. You want that thing fixed. You don't want to bust past that wall. So it's important to get yourself a budget, write down all your bills, every single thing that you spend a month. Go through it and be like, where can I cut this? Where can I cut that? Where can I lessen this? You know, what's absolutely needed and what is that amount? And then after that, have that, add like $100 on top, add another $100 on top. That's your emergency fund and your debt paying off fund. Okay? There you go. We're not even close to being in a couple people's situations, but there you go. Now, if you're still looking at these numbers and you're like, I'm still in the red. It's still not making enough. I'm still screwed. Well, you need to make more money. Easy, right? How do you make more money? And maybe instead of working 40 hours a week, you work something else and you work an extra 20 hours a week. At a separate job or with a side hustle or a billion different other ways. But maybe you make an extra $200 a week on the side. Okay? With a side hustle, whatever that side hustle might be. There's so many options out nowadays. Make sure you figure for taxes, but there you go. There's so many different ways to make money on the side nowadays. But there you go. If you need, you find yourself running $200 short, pretty good chance you can make $200 on the side. Okay? If you're only working 40 hours, maybe you take that overtime. You know, at work, if they offer it, maybe you take that overtime. Make yourself some overtime money that way. Maybe you sell some stuff. Maybe you purge some of the stuff you have. You need $2,000. Maybe you sell some stuff that you don't have. Maybe you sell some vintage stuff. Maybe you do this or do that. I don't know. But maybe you sell some stuff. And get rid of it that way. And maybe you have a garage sale and make some money that way. But figure out a way to kind of do something where it's going to give you the constant number that you need. Even if it means you have to stay, you stay with your 40-hour job, and then you do something on the side for 20 hours on the weekend. It's hard. It's not, it's going to require skill. It's going to require time. It's going to require learning. But it'll pay for itself. And in the end, you're going to be happier by living cheaper. Because you're going to get into that mindset of, I don't want to break through my first wall. I know what's in my second wall. I know what's in my second thing. And to be honest, what's in the third thing, I don't even pay attention to it. Kind of deal. Because as long as the first one's good and the second one's good, the third one's a little not that much of a concern. And even then, you can go into a fourth and fifth and sixth walls where you're not going to be breaking through these things unless it's absolutely needed. You can think of them as piggy banks if you want. You know, you got one piggy bank, it's got a hole in the bottom. That's your first wall. You got a second piggy bank. It's got a hole in the bottom, but it's got a lock. You got a third piggy bank. You got to break that open. Okay? You got a fourth piggy bank. That's actually a safe, and you don't have the key. You need to ask somebody for the key for that piggy bank. You know? But it's all about having these things in place, and that way it's going to kind of, it trained me to like know to not go too extreme on spending like $3,000 or $4,000 in a day just because I could, and then when something else comes along, I'm screwed. Live poor. Live poor, and you'll be rich. So many people have said it. I'm saying it again. If you live poor, you'll be rich. If you look rich, you'll be poor. Anyway, longer than I wanted it to be. Thank y'all. Have fun.